the line.
Good evening and welcome to the Town Council's Community Resources Committee meeting. This meeting is being held under the regulations allowing local authorities to meet formally using remote technology. It is being streamed live and is available to view on our website. It is important for everyone participating in this meeting to keep your microphones on mute when you are not speaking to reduce disruption from background noise. Most decisions will be made by general assent of those present. However, if a vote is required, each councillor's name will be read out by me or the Assistant Town Clerk, and you'll be asked to state whether you are for, against or abstain. If at any time the Town Council's technology fails and we need to adjourn the meeting for a short period, I'll confirm this and ask that all those present to turn their cameras off and mute their microphones while the problem is rectified. I'll then confirm when the meeting resumes. We can only monitor our technology and cannot halt the meeting if a member of the press or public experiences technological difficulties. I will now ask the Assistant Town Clerk to carry out a roll call of all councillors and ask you to confirm you're present. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Councillor Blanchard-Cooper.
Present.
Councillor Malloy.
Present.
Councillor Tandy.
It's not
Present.
Section 5.
Councillor Turner.
Present.
Councillor Dr. Walsh.
Present.
And Councillor Chase attending ex officio.
Present.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, everyone. And thank you, Jules. So item 1, mobile phones. Members are reminded to switch their mobile devices to silent for the duration of the meeting. So please make sure that's done. Thank you. Item 2, apologies. I don't believe we have any.
There are none, Chair.
Wonderful. Item 3, declarations of interest. The standing declarations are noted. Members and officers are reminded to make any other declarations if they become apparent at the appropriate time during the meeting. Are there any further declarations? Going once, going twice.
Chairman, yes, one that isn't in the standard declarations. I'm a member of Littlehampton Harbour Board.
Wonderful. Thank you, Councillor Walsh. Anyone else? Right, moving on then. So item 4, minutes. If you turn to pages 4 to 11 in your agenda, you will find the minutes from the meeting of the 18th of February. If everyone is happy with the minutes, these will be approved and arrangements made for them to be signed at a later date. This will be reflected in the minutes of this meeting. Is everyone happy with these? I'm sure everyone's had a good read.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Wonderful. Lovely. Item 5, Chair's reports and urgent items. I'll hand over to Jules, the Assistant Town Clerk, to confirm if there are any urgent items. I don't think we have.
There are none, Chair.
Wonderful, thank you. Item 6, public forum. In accordance with the remote meeting protocol, which has been introduced by the Town Council, any members of the public wishing to address the Town Council or any of its committees during remote meetings should have emailed their submissions to us one clear day before the meeting. I'll ask the Assistant Town Clerk to advise if there are any.
There are none, Chair.
This is going very swimmingly well. Thank you. I shouldn't have said that this early, should I? Item 7, officers' reports. So please turn to page 12 of your agenda papers. I'll ask both the Town Clerk and Assistant Town Clerk to take us through these reports. First of all, we have item 7.1, Town Council priorities, which are on pages 12 to 30. Over to Peter.
Thanks, Chair. These reports are going to each committee in this cycle and will end up at Council next week. That means that they're on a fairly tight turnaround, particularly for property and personnel on Monday, but we will get you those papers as they come through. I hope all members of the council are looking at their committee papers as they go through, because obviously that will help their discussions when they come to council next week. So The other thing I wish to mention before we need to go through these individually, is that we need to be clear what's a priority and what's a policy. So there may be things that you may want to pick up along the way that have been listed as priorities, but actually they're not in our hands to deliver. And actually what we'd like to do is encourage people to do things. In that case, we would have a policy encouraging people to do X, Y, or Z. I think the priorities need to be something that we can achieve. So just bearing that in mind as we go through this. Some of these cross over other committees, but I think the only way we can deal with this, Chair, is to take them one by one as we go through.
That's fine. Would you like to lead us through them, Peter?
Absolutely. The first one is allotments, and you'll see that there are, which is on page 13 of your papers. You'll see that we're proposing pulling together the three priorities that are already there. The reason for that being is that the actual delivery of the allotments isn't in our hands. It depends purely on how many houses have been built at various times on the North Littlehampton development. So, however, there is a keenness to examine, to investigate and deliver more environmentally friendly allotments if we can. So that hence the proposal there to pull those together.
Okay, thank you for that, Peter. So with this one, would you, in respect of, because you was asking if we'd like these to be included as a priority or a, sorry, what was, or policy. Policy, what would you suggest this would be better?
I think it's a priority to invest. It's not a problem, Chair, to investigate and bring to members the options available to make them more environmentally friendly.
Okay. I think that was a good way forward. I'm just seeing if anyone's got any hands being raised. Nothing coming up yet. In which case, is everyone intent with that?
Agreed.
Agreed.
Yeah. There you go, Peter. Next one.
Some of these are also picked, as I said, are picked up in other committees. So the next one is the North Littlehampton Community Centre and Youth Facility, which is joint priority with Property and Personnel, and has also been picked up by Policy and Finance. I'm envisaging, particularly given how far ahead we are on one of those projects, that they remain priorities and probably don't need much further discussion.
Okay, thank you. I have a question from Councillor Turner.
Actually, mine was for the last, about the allotments, and it doesn't matter. It's not important. Thank you.
Are you sure? We can still get the question answered if that helps.
It was a question about the troughs, because I understand there's a delay on it. And I was just wondering if we'd got any timescale on the troughs being delivered.
I think Juliet will have to tell me on that one, Chair.
Yeah. So we have referred to that delay in the subsequent report on the agenda, Chair, but we haven't got a firm date yet. It's all to do with the supply chain and not being able to get hold of it. But as soon as we have, we will notify members.
Thank you ever so much, Juliet.
Thank you.
Thank you for your question. Okay, so that one was the North Littlehampton Community Centre, and there's no question seems to be. Sorry.
And the Keystone.
And the Keystone Centre, sorry, yeah. So there doesn't appear to be any questions coming up from anyone.
Agreed.
So are we happy to approve that one as a priority as well?
Agreed.
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 Lovely.
The next priority we had, Chair, was the Museum Collection Documentation Project, which is coming very close to its end. This report picks up the fact that there will be an end of project report coming to members, and at that moment, hopefully, we can say priority achieved.
I have to say, what a great piece of work this has been. I have just had a question raised from Andrea Turner. So, if Councillor Turner.
Actually, as I pressed the queue, you said thank you to them, and that's exactly what I was going to say. That they deserve a lot of credit for the amount of work that this has entailed for them, and on behalf, certainly on behalf of me and perhaps the whole committee, to say thank you to them for their hard work, because it's been an amazing piece of work. Thank you.
It's been a brilliant piece of work, and I echo everything Councillor Turner is saying, and I'm sure everyone agrees on this. It's been a long piece of work, but it's so worthwhile in the long run. It's going to make everything so much more accessible. And I think they've been finding things that we didn't even know we had, which is wonderful. So a bit like sorting your attic out sometimes. I have no idea what I'm going to find tomorrow when I do that, because that is my job for tomorrow. Okay, so that one, is everyone happy with that one?
Agreed.
The next, sorry, Chair.
Yep, that's all okay.
Agreed.
The next one then, Chair, is a double-barreled one. Tree planting in Rosemead. We took the report last time, and obviously there's an update in the papers today. But so that is a clear ongoing priority. It doesn't need discussing.
Yeah.
It's just in terms of the actual project itself, but in terms of inclusion in this report, is a clear ongoing priority. The other one we had on here is wildflower planting. Now, when we put the priorities together, this doesn't mean they can't change. That's exactly why we're looking at them now. So I think it's important to flag that first. But when we first looked at it, we looked at we were hoping to do and still are hoping to do the verges where the new road will come into the top of the town with some wildflower planting up there. Initially, we'd hoped the developer would do it, but that didn't prove to be the case because their planning permission was already in. But once the road is there, we will certainly be liaising with the county council and coming back to members with a report as to whether there are any additional costs in doing that. However, the mayor has also come up with a proposal which is attached to these papers, and I saw his name pop up there, and I'm wondering whether he might want to explain it more rather than me. Otherwise, there's a danger we're just going to repeat each other.
No, his name's not popped up. It is Councillor Walsh whose name has popped up.
Oh, sorry, I apologise.
No.
I just saw the blue thing flip up in my face. So what
I can do the
is
picture at
proposed?
any time if you want.
Okay, I'll shut up and let the mayor talk, Chair.
Yeah, the idea came to me, like obviously we've got our priorities to look at the wildflower planting at the new Link Road and also at Rosemead Park. And like, as we know, we're always waiting and there's delays and we've got to investigate X, Y and Z. And I thought it would be a fantastic idea just to do some trial planting in certain areas where we can gauge how it works, how the public receive them. I personally think it will make in the two areas I've chosen, it will be an asset to those areas. I personally think I didn't go too extreme in the first issue because it would have frightened you all off completely. But that roundabout at Maltravers roundabout would be look absolutely fantastic, completely covered in wildflowers. We can get dwarf wildflowers, so there's no issue in height or anything. I think it'd be really good just to do these trial plots just to see how it goes and get the feedback and also brighten up and enhance a couple of our areas and to make it look a bit different and to show we're moving forward. Yeah, that's all I've got to say on that.
So,
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
could I just add to that? Sorry, through you, Chair. Then to add on to the end of that, the roundabouts themselves are not our own roundabouts. We operate them under licence from the county council. When you say operate them, we plant them under licence from the county council. And I'm due to meet with the county council very soon, who have asked for a meeting with me about roundabouts. So which is coincidental, but I don't know where that's going to go, and I will raise that issue with them whether they have any issues with that at all. So I can happily have that discussion if members so wish. The only other options which I discussed with the mayor on this one was if you were going to do a trial, these are quite highly visible, and so there is a risk with that. It's just important members go in eyes open. And a less risky area might be Rosemead, but that's it's really what members want to do. Whatever we can do it.
Okay, thank you, Peter. I have to say my personal opinion on this would actually be more leaning towards doing the trial in Rosemead. My personal reason for this is because I think the mayor's quite right in suggesting us doing a trial and doing something like this, particularly where we've got our flower planting contract coming up. we might not have the right people, or okay, we can find out how to do it, but these are things that we need to trial first. So that's my personal opinion on it, but I'll open it up now. And so first of all, I have Councillor Walsh.
Thank you very much, Chairman. I warmly welcome this trial. I think it's a great idea, and I actually take a contrary view. I think it actually is important that they are in a public place where a lot of people see them, both on foot and in cars and whatever, so that we actually get a wider view on it rather than being tucked away in Rosemead Park. So I think these two trial sites are absolutely splendid. One's on, Maltravers, Fitzalan, and the other at the back of the Manor House. The range of wildflower plants suggested are admirable. To anybody who thinks that wildflower means they're just left, they've still got to be looked after, and they will still at times of drought need to be watered, not left to them their own devices, because especially the one on the roundabout is raised and drains very easily and gets very dried out. So we've got to make sure that they're not just planted and forgotten about, they've actually got to be planted and nurtured. So let's get ahead with it, get it done, and see what the reaction is.
Okay, thank you, James. Next we have Councillor Malloy.
Hello. I really like the idea of this project. I'm with James on it as well, where I feel it would be nicer and received better by the public if it was in a better view, because not all the public visit Rosemead Park, especially if they don't have children. It's done really well by, I'm guessing it's District Council on St Catherine's Field by the War Memorial. There's always a nice display there, so it'd help that carry on as well with the look of that. And I think it would show us taking an initiative, because Bognor's got a lot of press recently for their bee bombs that they've been giving out, and it would show that we are trying to do more for our insects and environment and stuff like that. So I'm fully supportive of this. I would like to see, if we could eventually, I know we touched on it before, once the trees in Rosemeads are done, to have wildflower planted along the edge of those trees. I think we spoke about it in our last CRC meeting, so it would be nice to see it there as well eventually.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Malloy. And Councillor Turner.
Thank you, Chair. I agree wholeheartedly with both Councillor Malloy and Councillor Dr. Walsh. I think that it should be as public as possible. I think that the two sites are ideal. Rosemead is not a place that I would normally visit, so to see the roundabout done as well would be very useful for me. And I think we've got to be showing that we are considering the environment and that we are considering the ecological side of things, and people will be able to see this. So I think we should go for both sides. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Turner. And Councillor Chase.
Yeah, I'll just come back quickly. The reason why, and I have looked into both those sites very carefully, as you'll see in the report, with the suitable flowers, etc. I did choose those sites, so because I felt they could be a get done one, and I'm more interested in not what we can't do, but what we can do. So if there is issues, Peter, fair enough, but I would have loved to go up to Rosemead as well, but I was looking on the basis of what we can do, and personally I thought that was the lowest risk one of being shelved, basically. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Chase. I think there's a clear steer here, which I'm happy to support. I would just suggest a caveat in this, which hopefully all may be able to support. What we do is we go forward with the recommendation of the two sites, but with the caveat that, as we know, Peter's first of all got to find out if that would be allowed under the licence for West Sussex County Council, whose roundabouts they technically belong to. So that if Peter finds out that we're unable to do it there, that the second site would then be Rosemead. So effectively the first option is as proposed by Councillor Chase. But the second option is, if we're unable to be able to do that, which I find unlikely, that we then go with the alternative site. Would everyone be happy with that?
Agreed.
Agreed.
That's fine, Chair. In terms of priority, that will pick that up, and obviously we'll have to go away. And as members will have picked up elsewhere in the paperwork, we have an issue anyway with our floral contract, so the two could come together quite sweetly here. So that could work well. That's a clear priority. Thank you for that, councillors. Town council events on the top of page 15. I think is a clear priority to retain, which is the trying to externalise if we can as well, to add to our offer.
Agreed.
Then the next one is Pier Road extension. Sorry, entertainment. We're in a position at the moment as work goes onwards to see whether we hopefully will be pedestrianising Pier Road during the summer. And these town council support is set out here in terms of that, in terms of providing some entertainment to make it an even better location.
Okay. Anyone got any questions on that one? Doesn't appear to be. Oh, here we go. Councillor Walsh.
Yeah, thanks very much, Chairman. Yes, just to say with the Pier Road one, when we were talking about the event programme, Love Littlehampton, I think it's called, keep getting the name fixed in my brain, it was agreed that some of the town centre events which were more mobile could be used in Pier Road as well. So I just want to make sure that that's not lost sight of.
Through you, Chair. Yes, Councillor Walsh, it certainly is. We haven't booked them or anything yet, so we don't know availability or anything. So, but yes, it's certainly one of the key. They would be potentially the spotlight or main focus events with other bits and pieces working around them.
Yeah,
I'll come back to members on that anyway.
Yeah,
okay,
sure.
Thank you. I don't appear to have any other questions on that, so I think we're all happy with that, Peter.
Agreed.
Thank you. The next one is sorry, I apologise.
Yeah, it's all okay.
Yeah. Next one, securing the future of Wick Information Centre. I'm sure that's to be retained.
Agreed.
Agreed.
The next one is we had a range of smaller items which we've sort of bracketed together and then left out the chair's own particular favourite, which is how to endear yourself to your chairman. This is the one with balls and petanque at Musebrook Park, splash pads, outdoor leisure equipment, and rickshaws, which is the word that was missing out of here. Now, these are a number of small initiatives that were identified by members, but they just members. I mean, nothing's been confirmed on any of them. We've started work on a few, but they are net for now in terms of the delivery programme, in terms of us producing the work over the next few months to come to members. So before we do any more on that, it's important that members confirm or otherwise whether they wish them to remain priorities.
Okay, so I think perhaps we take each one individually, Peter.
Okay, well, they are self-explanatory, so if you want to take them through, Chair, or I can, I don't mind either way.
Okay, so the bowls and petanque at Musebrook Park. Do we have any comments on that? I'm seeing James Walsh is already typing. So, Councillor Walsh?
Yes, thank you, Chairman. I'd strongly support that. It's a minimal cost, but great fun and enjoyment. And as an outdoor activity for people of all ages, but tends to be middle-aged and upwards that tend to do it. But I'd encourage younger people as well. It's great fun.
Lovely. I have to say I'd support this one as well. Is everyone happy with that one to stay as a priority?
Agreed.
Obviously, wholly dependent on Aaron allowing us. I just throw that caveat in.
Agreed.
Yep.
Okay. So the next one is splash pads. My personal opinion is it's not something we can deliver ourselves because it'd be Aaron's land, and I think it's part of a much wider scheme. I'd say with my personal view is that we need to adopt this as a policy that we would support this. But I'm happy to see what the committee say. I've had Councillor Chase pop up. So first of all, over to Councillor Chase.
Yeah, I'm in total agreement there, Councillor Blanchard Cooper. The Arran District Council are now going for the levelling up fund. So any ideas that would, or things we're trying to push forward, would muddy the waters on that. Keep it as a priority. Let's see what the District Council come up with in their ideas for the levelling up fund and see how we can support those.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Chase. Councillor Malloy next.
Hello. I'm much the same with Dave on that. After seeing that we're applying for the Levelling Up Fund, hopefully to do something along the seafront, it would be the sort of place you'd put a splash pad. So hopefully districts would look to include it in their plans.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Malloy. I believe from memory that the actual seafront plan that Arran run up in 2017 from memory actually does include splash pads. So I now have Councillor Walsh.
Thank you, Chairman. Everything has been said by the Mayor and the Deputy Mayor and yourself. Indeed, they were in the 2017 plan, and I agree that this should be a policy that we encourage Arran to proceed with it. Yeah.
Fantastic. So just for clarification for the purpose of the minutes, what we're recommending on this one is that it's no longer a priority for this council, but is a policy of support for this in the town. Is that correct, Peter?
Indeed.
So can I just have assurance that everyone is happy with that?
As long as you say on the seafront, not in the town, as you just said.
Oh, sorry, yes, no. Well, I include the seafront as part of the town.
Yeah, you're right.
Overall,
minutes it needs to say on the seafront.
But yes, as part of the seafront plans.
Yeah.
So is everyone happy with that?
Agreed.
Agreed.
Yeah, lovely, thank you. Shame, I was looking forward to having splash pads in the middle of the town, maybe on a roundabout. The next one we've got is the outdoor leisure equipment.
Yeah, this was sort of fitness equipment, potentially on the seafront again. So again, potentially an Arran thing.
I think in a similar way to last time, would everyone be happy? Oh, I've got a question from Councillor Walsh first.
No,
yeah.
I was just going to say that's exactly what I was going to say.
Okay.
It's a policy rather than a priority.
I've got, oh, hang on. I'm getting lots of questions popping up, but I can't see them. Let me just close that, close that, close that. Right, I've got a question from Councillor Turner. Councillor Turner.
Thank you, Chair. My question would be outdoor leisure equipment. Does that not include things like chessboard and things like that that would be outside as well?
It could be any type of leisure, I imagine, but I believe it was more fitness that was suggested.
It was more fitness, but it could absolutely be anything, really. It's loosely worded deliberately, I believe.
Okay, thank you. I would be happy to agree with what's been suggested.
Okay. And Councillor Malloy.
Hello. I was going to ask really similar to Andrea, actually, like what does that include? Only because we've got some of the gym style equipment up the road from us and it doesn't actually get used very often. But if that could be put to, say, chess sets and other bits and pieces, then I'd feel much more comfortable. But as we're not actually paying for it and it could be an initiative with someone else, then I'm happy for it to go through as a policy that we would support it.
Lovely. Thank you ever so much. So I think we've got a good steer on that everyone's happy that it's done as a policy. I do think the wording of outdoor leisure is loose enough so that it could be either one of those. So I think we're quite happy to suggest that. So is everyone content that that's now a policy?
Agreed.
Agreed.
And last but not least, my mad idea of rickshaws. So,
indeed, Chair, which we've done some initial sort of sounding out, but I think that it's this is very different to the stuff that's actually sitting on Arran's land. This is more of a service and a tourism attractor and things like that. So in terms of it being a priority, I think the priority would be from an officer point of view, and my advice to you would be is to investigate whether it's actually whether it's achievable. First of all, whether there is potentially a supplier or someone who could deliver, or what the options might be. I don't really want to, but we could, of course. I wouldn't recommend to you that we became an employer of rickshaw drivers, so I think that the priority might be to bring an options paper to members to setting out the issue.
No problem. Okay, so my questions are going left, right and centre. I'm going to try and squash them just in case I'm on the right thing here. So the idea was, in case people weren't sure on this, the idea was to purchase rickshaws that could then be effectively leased out as startup mini businesses for individuals, in a similar vein to how London operates them, so that someone actually hires the vehicle from us, which would include insurance, etc., and guidance. They then make their money through all the sales, and that's what covers their rental effectively from us. But that's the only part we'd cover, is effectively the initial startup of the equipment. So that hopefully that kind of explains it. The whole idea is that it's obviously greener, it's good for the economy because it's starting up new jobs and giving people new opportunities. But anyway, so I'm trying to see who I had first. Councillor Malloy, I believe.
I just wanted to say that I support this wholly, because I think it's really important for us to try and get people moving around our town as opposed to visiting just those first few bays of the beach. And with everybody holidaying at home over possibly the next 2 to 3 years, I think it would be quite important to get it done sooner rather than later, and looked into to see if it is viable.
Thank you, Councillor Malloy. Okay, Councillor Chase next, please.
Yeah, hi. In principle, it's a great idea. Going to upset Councillor Dr. Walsh now, only a little bit though, because I know his offices are very busy at the moment. But I would be pushing that we don't waste our officers' time investigating this, because there would be so much work which is nothing to do with us, i.e. West Sussex County Council, licensing with Arran District Council. When their officers get time, I would like them to investigate it if it's something they could offer out to tender, basically, as a new opportunity in Littlehampton.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Chase. I'm not sure that's how we could go on that, but we'll come on to that in a moment. Next, I have Councillor Turner.
Thank you, Chair. Perhaps in the meantime, we could investigate expanding the land train so that the land train does a bit more of the seafront, and actually then transports people from the seafront into town. That would be an alternative to look at instead of the rickshaws. But certainly we need to be expanding, because to do half a mile along the seafront, the land train is very expensive for a very short space, and they could be transporting people into town and expanding that business. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Turner. I don't think we could consider that one at this time, because it's not obviously been included in the papers, and I think it's possibly something that we could suggest across to ADC, as I believe the licence lies with them on that. I'll just check with Peter. Am I correct on that?
It's an Arran District Council concession, in effect. Yeah, I believe.
Okay, thank you ever so much. Councillor Walsh next.
Thanks very much. The Mayor hasn't upset me, but the reality of the situation is that with the a lot of extra work that was loaded onto officers last night with the bid for the Levelling Up Fund, which is going to take all their time up till June, the submission date, there certainly isn't going to be any spare capacity for Arran, and it'd be most unusual for one council to be asking another authority to be doing something that it wants to do. So the answer will come back: if you want to do this, you've got to investigate it. And I'm supportive of this, but we're not rushing ahead to say we're going to do rickshaws. what Town Clerk suggested was that we should investigate as to whether anybody would be prepared to do it. Now, I don't want to jump in ahead of that and say, yes, we will purchase rickshaws. It could well be that a startup company would be prepared to do that themselves. So I don't think we should be rushing into the business of buying rickshaws for something that might fall flat on its face, within 6 months. Then what do you do? There's not a big market for second-hand rickshaws around here, as far as I know. So I think investigating is the route here, and see where we go. And that will include talking to other operators elsewhere, not necessarily in central London, because we're not central London, and the density of people who might use them and tourists, etc., is not as great as in London. But it's worth investigating.
Thank you, Councillor Walsh. Councillor Chase, you wanted to speak again, or was that just a comment to reference Andrea?
Yeah, that was just a comment to reference Andrea, and to you, Dr. Walsh. Yeah, I didn't put that quite correctly on upsetting you. It was meaning that realising that your officers are totally up the wall with everything at the moment, and it would be an impossibility. But I do feel we shouldn't spend too much of our officers' time on it, because there are so many things to jump through. Like we'd have to get licenses from Arran District Council, we'd have to get licenses from the West Sussex County Council. It is a fantastic thing to do, but there's so many hoops to jump through, it's unbelievable. So I wouldn't like to see the officers spend too much time on it.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Chase. I believe Peter's just about to speak.
Yeah, just to assure members, if you put this down as a priority, which is perfectly reasonable, I'm not about either to blast my full officer team at rickshaws for the next 6 months. I would ask 1 or 2 people who in their other areas of work to investigate firstly some basic costs, and actually, if actually those costs from word go said this is really not a viable option, then I'll come back to you just saying this is a no-go, and recommend that we put it on the shelf and come back to it in 5 years' time or something like that, or don't ever look at it again. So I'm not proposing to do the full-blown investigation unless things are working very smoothly. I will come back to you and draw a halt to it fairly quickly.
Okay, thank you, Peter. So what we're suggesting is that it's the rickshaws, that it's kept as a priority, but the investigative work's done as an initial starting point. Is everyone content with that then?
Agreed.
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 Yeah, agreed, and thank you for the reassurance, Peter.
Lovely. Thank you, everyone. Okay, so I believe it's now the youth markets, Peter.
Yeah, the next 2 items are both are slightly different and more difficult. The youth market has occurred in several towns around the country and been hugely successful in some of them. However, and as always, you kind of knew I was going to say however, a lot of those are in places that are either market towns who have the facilities and equipment and also the ability to run markets themselves, and also have teamed up with universities, etc., that type of tier. The proposal that has been added to this from Councillor Seeks is perfectly valid, and I'm not trying to be a naysayer on it, but I'm just wondering, it is potentially a bit like if we investigated rickshaws in a very major way, it would become hugely resource intensive for us as a town council to do it, because we don't run markets. I know we have an involvement in it, but we don't run markets. We haven't got the links to the various tiers of education, and some of the other sides of it as well. I mean, the county council have got some of those things, the district council have got some of those things. Before we know it, it could turn into a very major piece of work, possibly with very limited outcomes. So I'm just putting that risk out there before if you wish to have it as a priority, we'll go off and happily crack on with it. But I think you need to just think about the balance of the outcome you potentially could achieve against the resource that will be thrown at it.
Okay, thank you, Peter. So I have questions coming up. So first of all, I have Councillor Chase.
Yeah, on this one, all, in my opinion, it all just depends on how you're viewing it. Totally understand what the town clerk's saying, but my vision on it would be, and is like basically a keep it simple vision, which again is a can-do vision and not a can't-do one. And that is, we do have connections with markets. We do have a connection with the Friday market, which already runs a charity stall which is booked through the town council, and also we have a connection with the artisan market. Now my vision for the youth market would be to have, with our connection with the academy, to have a managed by the school, by the academy on a Friday, and at the artisan as well. So a group of children who are doing a certain course and just a learning curve of running a business. And so therefore I don't think it would, doing it that way, it wouldn't take up too much time and too much resource. So but everyone's got a different vision on it, but that's how I visualised this scheme working, and I see that totally doable.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Chase. Next up, we have Councillor Tandy.
Thank you, Chair. And I'm going to be honest, I am in two minds about this one. You know, I absolutely, and I think everyone here thinks that, you know, if we can do something to show off the talents and the kind of decency of our young people, we would all be in favour of it. I have doubts about the idea of a market format for various reasons. Just mainly that it's very, I don't want to say niche, but it's quite a small, it doesn't cover a very large number of young people who are wanting to perhaps start small enterprises. So if we do it, I will happily support it, but I just think we might be better placed to adopt a policy of along the lines of, we will do everything as a town council we can to promote and draw attention to our young people and what they're doing. I just think we need a bit more of, if we're going to do that, a bit more of a wider scope. I'm not saying the market shouldn't happen, but it should be part of a bigger policy where we are doing like whatever we can to promote them. So examples that I've spoken to other councillors about in passing is things like giving kind of young musicians the chance to perform at the start of our events, or in various ways like that. And you know, I will happily support anything we do to make our young people and get people to know that our young people are great. But I think the market, if we adopt it, and like I say, I'm not going to vote against it or anything, but I think it just needs a little bit more thought. I think there is an idea there, but I think at the moment it's probably too much of I'm trying to think of an acorn to kind of widen it out yet. So if we do it, I think it needs a lot more work before it gets to the deployment stage, shall we say, Chair?
Okay, thank you, Councillor Tandy. Next, we have Councillor Malloy.
Hello. I think Freddie's right. I do think we need to see what we all think this is about, because I think we've all got different ideas of what it could be. I like Dave's idea of possibly having a bolt onto a market we've already had, but then I wouldn't expect young people to go and do a market every week. I like the idea, like my idea when we said a youth market would be like maybe a once a quarter thing on an inside setting, where it's almost like an enterprise day where they come and show people what they do. One person may be making computer games, another person may be baking, perhaps with a seminar there about how to set up a business or something like that. So I guess it's just different ideas and what we think of it. And I think maybe we need to take it away and come back with what we all expect of a youth market.
Okay, thank you. I've just had someone else pop up. Who's that? Councillor Chase again.
Yeah, just me again. Yeah, totally agree with what Councillor Tandy said and Councillor Malloy. And as I said in my bit, but it is about what everyone's visualising. So I don't know whether it would be possible to set up a small working group to investigate this a bit further. Just put it on, I don't know, Peter, whether it could just be put on hold for a while, but set up a small working group to report back to the town clerk with some ideas to see whether it is what we could push forward, because there is some brilliant ideas out there, and as Councillor Tandy said, there's some doable ideas, but we've got to present something to the town clerk which we know is doable and we're all happy with.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Chase. I next have Councillor Turner.
Thank you, Chair. I agree wholeheartedly with all the views so far this evening on that. I think we all have different ideas, and I think a working party to come up with specifics for this for the town clerk to act upon. I like the idea of a bolt-on market where our youngsters can attend one of the markets, as suggested by Councillor Malloy, maybe once a quarter, so that they actually get an opportunity to display what they can do. I like the idea of perhaps a musician, as Councillor Tandy said, musicians at the beginning of one of our events. So there's obviously lots of ideas out there that we can incorporate for the youngsters to help them. And I think we need to be able to focus on what ones would be the most successful and most useful. So perhaps a working party would be a good idea. That would be my view anyway. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you ever so much, Councillor Turner. So finally, we have Councillor Walsh.
Thanks very much, Chairman. Yeah, I agree with a lot of what's been said, but particularly with what Councillor Freddie Tandy said. And what the town clerk said, we are not in the business of running any sort of markets, don't have the expertise or the staff. The reality, of course, is that the youth who would be providing any service or taking part in this are going to come from the Little Hampton Academy. It's our secondary school in the town with large numbers. And I don't think we should be driving this initiative. I think we should can and should issue an invitation to the academy as to whether they want to do it, and if they should be driving it, because it's going to come from a department within the school, and it's going to be managed by the school, because there's child protection issues, all the rest of it that has to be taken into account, and it's going to be school staff, I would imagine, plus if it is a bolt-on to any existing market, plus the existing market manager. So I think the invitation should go to the academy to see whether they're interested, and have some discussions with them as to a feasibility. If the answer is no, that there is no room in the curriculum or appetite for it or whatever, then it's not going to progress, because we're not going to conjure up youth from anywhere else who are going to be doing this. So I think that's the opening shot in this before we go any further.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Walsh. I tend to agree with Councillor Walsh and Councillor Tandy on this. We've got currently the community stall, which if the school is interested in doing something of this nature, could be utilised as a starting point. We also have events such as Armed Forces Day. Okay, we haven't got that this year. But particularly the Family Fun Day and Town Show, which is an ideal opportunity for our young people to be able to promote aspects of this. We have got events, which one that springs to mind would actually be Screen on the Green. Councillor Tandy mentioned music. The academy has got a good reputation for that, which means, you know, we could have them having a recorded performance at the beginning of Screen on the Green, if they was interested in that. So I do think there are elements that could be taken from this. And Mark, it does worry me somewhat, particularly with the points that have been raised. I'm just going to go back to Peter, and then I've got one more comment from Councillor Malloy. So, Peter, we have had the question raised about a working group. I'm not sure how that would work, as we don't know where we're wanting the working group, what it wants to achieve from it.
Chair, could I suggest to you that from what you've all saying, and I think I've heard it, and I think it's important, and I think at no point of the whole thrust of the proposal in the first place is eminently sensible and something that every councillor and probably every resident would want the town council to be involved in. Could I suggest to you that the first stage to this, and I think is nail your policy first. Actually, what is the town council trying to do? It is trying to, and I open it up, and we don't need to do that today, but we could come back to it if we wished. But we are trying to assist young people to move from educational life into employment or into business, and at the same time to showcase the talents of our young people to the rest of the community. Loosely like that. I'm not trying to, sorry, I wasn't trying to say that in a way that should define it as the way forward. But I think if you've got that, there are a number of things then that come into play, of which a market is only one. We've got a new youth facility coming on board, which we could use, and for many things during that. There's a lot more to it than just having a youth club 3, 4, 5 times a week. We hopefully we'll get much more use out of that building. We have other community centres. If we have that policy, it should also influence how we run our events during the year. What we do should align to our policies, is what I'm trying to say here. So if we get the policy right, we can roll the rest out from that. I would strongly suggest to you that a working group at the moment, without having had that sort of thought of direction, would be, again, very resource hungry. And I'll have probably about 3 staff sitting around doing it and running off and doing various bits of investigation. I think get your policy right. There are some things we could do quickly. We could easily get work. I mean, and someone mentioned the importance of talking to the academy. Absolutely vital. And we're lucky to have an entree into there through one of our councillors. But also we've had communications with the head teacher previously, and where we can work together. So there is opportunity there. We've also got Arran Youth that we work with as well, and there are other opportunities. So what I'd suggest to you, if members are happy, is that we crack the policy and then look to roll out our things in line with that policy.
Okay, thank you, Peter. As I said, I've got one last question from Councillor Malloy.
Hello, Peter actually touched on it. I was going to say, if the academy are unable to do anything, if we were offering some sort of funding, could we approach the Arran Youth Project with this as well, because it's their kind of catchment and age range for this.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Malloy. So I think Peter's given a good steer on this, and I think, excellent idea. Fully support it. I think anything we can do for the youth would be great and promote them. And I do think going forward with the policy first is a sensible method. Is everyone content with that?
Agreed. Yes, definitely.
Agreed.
Thank you, Peter.
Agreed.
Wonderful. And thank you everyone for their input so far. So what's the next one, Peter?
The next one and last one, Chair, is where I have to own up to my own inadequacies again, where I managed to get an item confused between committees. So the branding broadly is a policy and finance item, which was discussed on Monday evening because it was missing from their list and was on yours. The reason it was on your list, councillors, is because your members will recall that there was a map was proposed that we've discussed a couple of times at committees, at this committee, which was then aligned to the branding element that was in the future. So at the moment, branding is not being progressed by PNF. It's not being proposed to be progressed in a major way, but in a slightly different way, and aligning its entranceway to the north and things like that from the town. So the question remains, and it's slightly like it's a bit like the exercise equipment or the chess set, however you want to look at it, in so much as this map, which I haven't done the questionnaire to members on, and I had intended to do it before, but actually it will be a bit of a steer today, because if you decide it's not a priority, I don't need to do the questionnaire to members. But what we don't know is how much anyone wants to spend on it, how big it is, where it should go, apart from it being on the seafront somewhere. And there's a number of issues that we address at that committee, which I need to share with all members of the council. It is, at the end of the day, another one that sits wholly in the gift of Arran District Council, because it's their land, and it may even be their initiative. The question was raised is on the questions that I raised at committee, which I'm going to circulate, is this something that should sit with the district council anyway? So I haven't circulated that. I apologise, but it hasn't been the #1 priority. The question is the map a priority for this committee? Now, the point of the map was to try and get people to move around a little bit further from the far west of the beach to either go into town or go along the beach. So I open that up. If it is, then we'll just do the questionnaire and we'll come back to committee. If it isn't, I won't do the questionnaire. It's really as simple as that, Chair.
Okay, thank you, Peter. So the first speaker I've got is Councillor Molloy.
Hello. I feel like I have to say hello every time I appear because my face isn't on there all the time. When we're talking about branding and we're talking about identifying the need to progress a strong brand, are we talking about completely rebranding or just progressing on what we already have?
We're not talking about it here because this is the bit that should have gone to policy and finance. Right. But what are we talking about is it a priority for this? So the branding bit that was at policy and finance is about, is it a priority for this council to progress a strong brand, new brand for the town? Just to confuse things, there's a parallel piece of work going on within the organisation about reinforcing the town council brand. Yeah. Just so exclude that from this discussion. It's about the town.
Okay, I remember we spoke about the map and said we shouldn't progress it until we've been rebranded. But I think rebranding would be a very vain activity for us to carry out at a time when we need to be putting money into our community after COVID. So I think it's just kind of a catch-22, and I think we might have to put the map on the bench for a bit to see where we stand with branding in, say, a couple of years' time coming out of COVID. Does that make sense at all?
Yep. It does. I'd be careful about the use of the bench, because people might think you're going to put it on the long bench.
No, we're not putting anything on the bench. We'll pop them. I think it might be a good idea to pop the map on a shelf, like not get rid of it, but keep it to one side until we decide what we are doing in the other committee with this branding, because I just don't think branding is rebranding our stuff with the cost it would take is something we should be doing right now.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Molloy. I don't have any other speakers at the moment.
I agree.
In which case, are we all agreed with that?
Agreed.
So we'll take it off our list of priorities, but put it on the shelf to come back. That probably means, councillors, it will come back to a new council.
Yeah.
Agreed.
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 Okay.
And you'll be pleased to know that from me, Chair, that's the end of me for that item.
Okay. Oh, I've just lost some of my paper down the side of my desk.
Other than to say is that we will be pulling these together. So the policy and finance ones from Monday, these ones, anything that went to planning and transportation, we will try and get out as much as we can tomorrow for the council dispatch. Obviously, all of the priorities won't be there because property and personnel don't meet until Monday night. So there will be at least one more delivery and possibly two to you of those papers. And on that, I shall sit in the background and listen.
Okay, I may need your assistance for a minute, Peter, as I've just lost pages 1 to 15 of my agenda down the side of my desk where I cannot get to. So this is all going swimmingly until that's just happened.
Would you like Juliet to guide you through it, Chair?
If she could, until we're back on page 16, so to speak, that'd be wonderful, because I've lost everything before that.
Well, sorry, so up to 16 is the priorities. So the recommendations, I think we've done them as we went through, Chair. Okay. So on that case, you can move on to the next item. We can
7.2.
Yeah.
Right, wonderful. Okay, I'm back again. Apologies to the public. That seemed very unprofessional, but unfortunately, it's just all disappeared down the side of my desk. It's all good fun. Okay, so we're on to item 7.2, which is events and periodic reports, which are on pages 31 to 36. I will now invite Juliet Harris to summarise the reports and recommendations.
Thank you, Chair. As you mentioned, starting on page 31, there's a summary of the report that we're asking you to look at this evening in terms of progress with our events programme for this year. And this is following on from our last meeting fairly quickly, where it was evidence that certain elements of the programme just would not be deliverable this year because of the ongoing restrictions. So having made that decision, unfortunately, on some of the events there, officers were tasked with going away and coming back and reporting an update really in terms of proposals, which hopefully will take us through at least until the autumn this year. So in that respect, there's a number of recommendations there, which I'll go through one by one as they relate to these specific items on the report. The first item is regarding Easter Out and About, where that is pretty much on the horizon now, and because of the current state of play, we wouldn't be able to deliver in the current format. And that is just to note the fact that we've explored options to replace the event with different alternatives, which are outlined there. So we need to put things in place that will enable us to take that forward. And in that respect, we've devised a virtual event which will take people around specific parks and areas in the town on a sort of Easter trail, and hopefully that will endeavour to fill the gap in some ways there for a time when everybody can hopefully get back out and about again. The second item there, which does need some consideration by this committee, is regarding Armed Forces Day, which members will recall from the last meeting is now unfortunately cancelled, but we are looking at a virtual programme to be developed, which is building on really what we did last year. And that would enable us to show some of the previous events and at least do something to acknowledge the day. And in that respect, members are asked to have a look at what's already proposed, and also if they have any alternatives or any suggestions that they think we need to investigate, we would welcome those as well. The team have put a time frame on that. We would need to know ideally by the end of April, and that would enable us to officers to have enough time really to put the work in to deliver something for that day. But if members have any suggestions now, I'm happy to take those, or we'll send a reminder after the meeting and get the team to collate responses. Okay, I'll send a reminder after the meeting, Chair. In terms of the next item there, the Sandcastle competition, all being well, we hope to be able to deliver the competition this year. And the blessing with this particular one is that it does lend itself to hopefully us being able to control it if restrictions are in place. And also being the right time of year, it's an opportunity really to get back out there and encourage visitors and participants to take part. Details of that are outlined. and we just want members to confirm that they're happy with the dates there, and the team can then start progressing the plans for that event later in the year. The next item that needs a decision by the committee is regarding the Screen on the Green event. And this one is again going to be later on in the year, which hopefully we will be able to progress with. The plan is to operate the event in the way that we have done in the past, and in that respect we would need to set in train the provision of the screen, which the team have got quotes for there and are based on the cinema screen size that has been used in the past. And the recommendation there is that we move ahead with the quote 1 there, which is highlighted in members' reports on page 33. And we are continuing to make plans for that event, which will include the provision of outdoor toilet facilities as well. That's now a mainstay of that event and popular given the potential numbers that it can attract. In this respect, we may need to move quite quickly on that, so it is recommended that authority is delegated to officers in consultation with yourself as chair of the committee to approve an appointment there for a contractor when the time is right, and that's because the bookings will need to be confirmed before the next meeting of this committee. So I do need approval for the recommended quotes there on the screen. If members are happy with that.
Yes, happy to agree, Chair.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Thank you. The next recommendation in members' report is a proposal for an event this year, which would be, as it says in the report there, on Saturday the 28th of August, and this has been brought to our attention as the Royal British Legion has its centenary this year, and one of the events that is being explored is a potential torch of remembrance, and this would see a torch going around the country really, but the main aim would be to use the beacons in towns where they exist and to have them lit on the final evening. Members are really asked whether they would like the town council to take part in the celebration. We don't have any firm details in terms of the organisation. It's pretty much understood that if the event were to go ahead as proposed on the 28th of August, it would be the onus would fall on the town council to ensure that obviously our beacon was available and that the event were able to go ahead. In that respect, we would obviously need to make sure that we were able to man it to get the beacon lit and ensure that that was all done safely. And the team have estimated a cost there of around £1,800 to do that. There is no budget for that at the moment, so we would have to investigate that further. But for the purposes of this meeting, members are asked if they would like to participate in that, and if that's the case, we'll take that forward and see what we can achieve.
Okay, so thank you ever so much for that, Juliet. So I'll open it up to questions are we happy to do these on block, or would you rather me do them individually?
We can move through them one by one.
Yep. Okay. So any questions in relation to recommendation 1?
Right. Yeah. The Armed Forces Day event, Chair. It's if members have suggestions, so I'm happy to circulate something after the meeting to jog people's memories.
Okay.
If they could just note what's there.
Okay, so item 2 is the approve the date of the Sandcastle competition. Everyone happy with that one?
That's Thursday, the 12th of August, Chair.
Agreed.
Agreed.
Wonderful. Item 3 is approve the quote 1 for Screen on the Green.
Agreed.
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 Agreed. I'm not ever so happy with the quote for the toilet though.
Okay. If I can give some history to this, it might help. So in the past, we used to use a much cheaper toilet provider, which was your kind of, not to be funny with this one, but your bog standard Portaloos. And we had many complaints about. No, in fact, we didn't have the Portaloos, did we, Jules?
No, we haven't.
We literally
no,
use the toilets that were
yeah.
Along the front. So that would be the ones by the pitch and putt and the one by the windmill. We had various issues with 1 year where they'd been broken into and weren't actually able to be used. Where they hadn't been left open longer as required, complaints about the queues for them, that they was too far away. So we then looked at putting Portaloos in, which went through the committees, and it was felt by the council at that time that we needed, if we was going to do it, we needed to do it well, rather than just having your bog standard Portaloos. Because people felt that it would just cheapen the events. And that was actually, I believe I'm right in saying we'd done a questionnaire on this, and that was one of the main things that came back from the public was the toilets. We had several different quotes in from various different suppliers of different styles, and the one that came forward was the one where it's actually got disabled toilets, a whole proper bank of toilets, including staff that man them full nights to make sure that they are kept clean and tidy. And I think the first year we had that was 2018, I think, from memory. Even Jules is looking a bit suspect on this one. But I think that's around about right. And it all went down very well. It is a cost. I do appreciate that, but it is something that was received very well for that particular event. But I'm happy to discuss that one. But personally, I would support going ahead with that because it has got the really good amenities, and it's got the proper disabled toilets, which I think is something we do need as well.
Oh, so, don't get me wrong. Do you want to come in quickly, Jules?
I was only going to add that they are expensive, and that is largely down not as well as the quality, which the chair outlined. The history there was spot on. The other thing is that they have to be transported to and from the site, and that does push up the costs significantly on these things. That was all I wanted to say, Chair. Thank you.
Yeah, I've got no dispute at all in having to have them and the use and how they do enhance the Screen on the Green evening. My issue is that they cost more than actually putting on the Screen on the Green part of it, hiring the screen. I do have an issue with that, but sometimes you have to take it on the chin. I don't know whether it would be possible to investigate, because everyone has connections everywhere, whether our screen provider would have a connection where he could do us a package where he provides the screen and the toilets. Just a suggestion which might trim down the cost and just make it look more reasonable, because I just think it's unbalanced. I totally get that that's what it costs, but if we can trim some off by getting another provider we've already got for the event to source that product for us, he might have preferential deals. Just a suggestion.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Chase. And I think that's excellent point. And I'm sure Jules will take that away to feedback to Kieran to try and find out if there are any other options. But going forward, just so that we can progress, are we happy with that? But obviously with the caveat that we can source a similar product at a cheaper price, that's okay.
If I may, Chair.
Yep.
Certainly happy to investigate. I don't know whether or not the team have already been down that route before. I would say that it might be difficult because I appreciate that the purpose might be the same, but the two pieces of equipment, the screen and the toilets, are very different things. The main thrust of this particular recommendation is to approve the delegation. So we will research the options in terms of packages, but I'm not optimistic for that reason.
Okay, thank you. So it's, I believe Councillor Walsh is just wanting to ask a question. Am I correct? You are muted.
Sorry, my apologies. It's not to ask a question, it's just to apologise for the meeting. I've got to leave it. It's gone on longer than I thought. I've got another meeting starting now at 7:45, so my apologies.
No problem, Councillor Walsh. See you soon.
Thanks very much. I support the other recommendations that are before us tonight.
Thank you. Take care.
Thank you.
Okay, so is everyone content with that then?
Agreed.
Agreed.
Sure, yeah. We'll go away and do that research.
Wonderful. Okay, so the recommendation 4 was for the Royal British Legion Centenary Beacon Lighting events with an estimated budget cost of £1,800.
Yeah.
Do we have any questions on that? Let's see.
I'm looking for a steer there, Chair, if members wish to support that event.
Right,
we need to go away and do some work there.
First.
Thank you, Chair. My steer was simply going to be, I think it would be worth beginning preparations, because we've had situations in the past where we've chosen not to and we've been criticised for not. Something like the Royal British Legion, I suspect, given what we've gone through in the last couple of years, is the sort of thing that people will want to come together to celebrate. And I think it would look bad for us if we didn't. I think it would be sensible to start preparing and then pull out if it doesn't get off the ground, than not prepare at all.
Thank you, Councillor Tandy. That was similar thoughts to what I've been thinking myself, so that's good. Councillor Chase?
Yeah, my thoughts exactly.
Wonderful. Okay, in which case, I think I'm happy to say, are we all in support of that then?
Agreed.
Agreed. Lovely.
Thank you, Chair. There is one more there which I didn't get around to speaking about.
Yeah.
We are progressing with plans for the Town Show and Family Fun Day, which we're hopeful will be something quite special this year, hopefully, given the timing of the event. And that's all going to be put in place, assuming we don't have the restrictions that we do now. The other item there that's on the recommendations is a suggestion that came forward previously, where members had supported the idea of investigating an event to recognise the dedication and the work of key workers during the pandemic over the last year. And there are a number of things there that the team have listed that could help members consider how they might want to achieve this. We have thought that we could do some link and use the Town Show and Family Fun Day to do that. but open it up to members really in terms of their views and what they would like to see happen there.
Okay, thank you. So one of the first things I was going to just chuck into the pot, so to speak, was we have Screen on the Green coming up, and I don't think it would be difficult to do, but I do wonder about doing a thank you NHS to begin with on the screen, and would potentially open up to public to send in pictures of the local heroes. So anyone that they feel has gone above and beyond to do a collage of pictures, you know, the sort of thing that you can sort of merge in and out of different pictures, to sort of say thank you to all of them for our local heroes. And because that could be absolutely anyone from shop workers who have helped out, the next door neighbour who's been getting shopping for whoever, through to nurses, doctors, all the different services. You know, there's so much there. So that's one of the ideas I was going to suggest. I think that to do an event like a sort of town show type thing, I think would be quite difficult, in my opinion, because it's who are the key workers, because there are so many aspects to this. As I've said, there's the shop workers, through to nurses, through to the government, through to councillors, volunteers. So many different aspects to this where we've got so many thank yous to do. But I'm happy to open it up and see what other ideas are out there. Okay, so I'm looking to see if there's any questions being raised. No one yet. Oh, I've got Michelle Malloy. Councillor Malloy.
Hi. I really like your idea, Billy. I think it's a fantastic way to integrate so many people that are heroes, because everybody's heroes are different people at an event where we're already going to have a massive crowd. But I think it would also be nice to go to places like Tesco's, Sainsbury's, Morrison's, care companies, and ask the managers there who their outstanding staff were, and add them in as well, if that makes sense. So just go to the actual people who provided those key support areas and say, who were your outstanding staff? We'd like to include them in this thank you video. And if we put a little bit of money into it, we can make it quite a special video that those people can keep forever then.
Well, we might even be able to get some pictures or footage that they have and incorporate it into that.
Yeah, I think it's a lovely idea.
Thank you. Anyone else? No? Okay. Right, okay, in which case, that's my suggestion. Are we happy to support that one?
Yes, absolutely.
Agreed.
Agreed. And I do have a video of me walking around Tesco's.
No, we don't want that. It's only you, David. No, that'd be great. I actually think that would be the sort of thing we could do with. I think it would also be nice to have the mayor start off with a little speech, maybe. So start thinking about that, deputy mayor. You know, I think it'd be something really quite nice that we could also then share on social media afterwards and use for other things. So it's not going to be sort of a video that just sits there. It's also then something that can become part of the town council's museum archives. And something rather special that people can enjoy in the future as well.
Noted. Thank you, Chair. I'll take that suggestion back and we'll get the team onto it.
And I do like the fact that Jules is smiling slightly on this one. She likes us. Okay, so so
that's
item recommendation 6 is otherwise note the report. So that is all done, I believe.
Thank you. Yes, Chair.
Okay, so we're then on to item 7.3, which is visit Littlehampton, which is on pages 37 to 40.
Thank you, Chair. And this report is fairly self-explanatory. The first part gives an update really in terms of the publicity and how that has worked using the Visit Littlehampton sub-brand, which is how we promote the area. in amongst the information that's there, and as usual for this time of year, the team have outlined a marketing campaign, which is this year largely based around how we can maximise our social media output, really, in order to promote the town, our activities, and what we can do. Hopefully, as the season progresses, we'll be able to get more out of it, and members are asked to consider those proposals and approve the marketing campaign that is set out in the reports at sections 3.3 to 3.35. With an estimated cost there of £1,500. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, so going straight to the committee to see if they've got any questions on these. We'll do this one together. Anyone got any questions? Oh, I think they're all questioned out. Okay, in which case I'll go to the recommendations. So first of all is to item 1, which note the web reports. I'm not going to try and pronounce that word. I know I can't. For the previous 12 months. All happy with that?
Agreed.
Great.
Agreed.
Wonderful. Recommendation 2, approve the 2021 marketing campaign in principle with the estimated cost of £1,500, which will be funded from the town council's tourism budget.
Agreed.
Everyone happy with that?
Agreed.
Lovely. And otherwise note the reports. We now have 7.4, which is Community Resources Officer Report, pages 41 to 50. Once again, we will be going back to Juliet.
Thank you, Chair.
A bit like a newsreader. It's over to you, Juliet, in the office.
Thank you, Chair. This is the periodic update that we send to members in terms of the work that my support officer, Mike, our community resources officer, does. And in this respect, we've got a number of things that we need to bring to members' attention and where we need approval. In terms of the allotments, we've already spoken about the delay that we've got with the installation of the troughs, and that is, as I mentioned, purely in terms of the availability of the troughs themselves, but we will hopefully get that up and running soon and keep everyone informed of progress there. The next item within the report is also the subject of a recommendation, and that emanates from this year's HAS scheme grant. And in terms of where we are now, we have brought forward, we did publish this year's grant scheme as usual, and the take-up has been slightly less than it has in previous years, which isn't surprising really, because they're outdoor activities, and we now know from the research that's been done already that there are a number of local groups out there that simply haven't been able to either meet or to organise activities, and some of them are reluctant as well, because nobody can be absolutely certain what the position is going to be later on in the year. These grants are based around summer holiday activities. So we have got 2 grant requests there, from one from the Howard Lawn Tennis and one from Point Rocks, who have had grants from us before and have been able to deliver activities last year. And we would recommend that those 2 are approved, as they are fairly certain that they can go ahead. But also, in view of the roadmap that has been announced, we feel likely that there is scope potentially for other activities to come forward later on in the year. As we move through into the autumn, we've also got half term, for example. So we would propose that the remaining funds are kept in case other groups and initiatives do come forward. The second recommendation there moves on to, this is an early update really on the grants, because we will be launching this year's main grant scheme in the next couple of weeks. But as I mentioned before, our previous research and through the contacts that Mike has with our community groups, we already know that there are a number of groups that received grants last year but have as yet been unable to deliver the schemes for which their funds were awarded. And in members' reports, they're on page 43, table 2. There are half a dozen groups there that have already come to us and indicated that they have every intention of delivering their schemes as per their grant applications, but they haven't been able to do so as yet, and they are seeking extensions. And they've done this on the understanding that they wouldn't be able to apply for this year's grant funding. So given the exceptional circumstances, we are recommending that on this occasion, those extensions are granted, and we'll obviously monitor delivery of those as time goes on. Those are the two of the main recommendations. If I deal with the third main recommendation, I can pick up the other items and the updates that are in that report. The third recommendation on members' report there is regarding the Christmas lighting contract, and that, as a number of members of this committee will know, follows on from the recent meeting of the Christmas Lights Working Group, which in summary has taken the view that because of everything that's likely to happen in the High Street this year, and also the desire to have the opportunity really to celebrate hopefully a brand new high street with a new lighting scheme, and also the coming out of lockdown, they propose that we extend the current contract again just for a further year, and that also gives us the opportunity to go away and do a thorough review of the tender and hopefully come back with something quite special to celebrate those activities. If you want to deal with those recommendations first, Chair, I can go through the other items in the report that we're asking members to note updates on.
Okay, so thank you ever so much, Jules. So going back to the committee, first of all, do we have any questions regarding those? We've got the first one on there, which is the holiday activity support grants. I'd recommend we go with that. Is everyone happy with that?
Agreed.
Lovely. Recommendation 2 was the extension of the grants awarded under the 2020 scheme. Everyone happy with that?
Agreed.
Agreed.
Lovely. I think more or less everyone here was on the Christmas lighting contract, so I'm hoping you're all in support of what we've all agreed.
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 Wonderful. Okay, back to Jules.
Thank you, Chair. And just a couple of updates there. The floral contract, as it mentions in 3.4 on the report, we launched it and we didn't have any tenders, and we've also been advised by our current contractor that they won't be able to continue once the existing contract expires, which is the end of this year. At the time that the report was produced, obviously we'd started exploring a number of options, and we are still doing that because we have time, if you like, to do that. Not a huge amount of time because of the nature of the contract. You need to be prepared and ready to go to deal with the seasons and the planting. But on the positive side, I have since spoken with our current contractor, and whilst they can't undertake the physical planting element of it, they would still be happy to continue supplying us with their plants. And I think that's important because we have relied on them, particularly for the quality of the plants that we do receive. And that was a very big thing for the council a few years ago when they did a wholesale review of this contract. The quality of the display was something that members wanted to improve on and have been able to throughout this contract. At the moment, as I said, we're exploring options, and we will come back with the results of what we found and with some recommendations for committee. But for now, I would just ask that the current position is noted. And just to update members that Southfields Jubilee Centre, all being well and according to the current roadmap, we hope to be open again for hirers from the 12th of April, but obviously that will be subject to our risk assessments and those of any hirers coming back to us, and that will be continue to be reviewed as the government guidance is updated. And Rosemead Park trees, Mike is now working on putting together a tender documents that will look at a scheme as members indicated their preference for at the last meeting. So again, we'll bring back an update once we have more on that for you. And the barbecues hopefully will be going back in by the 12th of April, and that's because they've gone away for their annual refurbishment, and hopefully that will be in time for people to enjoy them as we come out of lockdown. And that's me done. Thank you.
Well done, and thank you ever so much, Juliet. We have a question. So the first one is from Councillor Turner, and if any other councillors have any, if you could get your cues on the screen, please. Thank you.
Yes,
Councillor Turner.
My question is about the floral contract. Have they given any indication as to why they are not able to continue being our contractors?
Yeah, circumstances have changed for them, and I think you'll find that's not an unusual thing given the circumstances last year. It's not that they wouldn't want to, they're just not able to do all of the work now. But as I said, they are able to continue supplying us with plants. So we're going to go away and start looking at options to deal with the planting going forward.
Thank you. Perhaps the A team would be able to take on some of it.
In-house is an option which we will be exploring.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Turner. Any other questions? No? Okay, so otherwise we're just to note the reports. I hope everyone's happy with that. And we shall move on to item 7.5. Museum Periodic Report. Once again, over to the lovely Juliet Harris.
Thank you, Chair. And I will pass on the comments from the committee earlier on in the meeting. It's very pleasing to hear that, and I'm sure they'll appreciate and the acknowledgement of the hard work that's gone into the collections documentation project. The report that members have got before them is an update, and it's not that dissimilar from the report you received last month. The project is ongoing and they continue to make inroads, and speaking to Charlotte earlier this afternoon, we are well past the 29,000 mark in terms of items recorded on the system, which is very good news. In terms of opening up, we have to obviously look to the roadmap, and at the moment the guidance for the museum industry is opening up from the 17th of May. So we'll be keeping an eye on how the guidance pans out with a view to meeting that date, and keep members informed as that progresses. Obviously, we haven't been able to get back into the building, so the proposal for the Butterworth Gallery that members approved last time round will be brought into play as soon as we can get back in the building and get that work done. We've got some online activities scheduled in terms of craft activities, which have been quite popular in the past and hopefully will get picked up again, and that will cover Easter. There's some figures there in terms of how the museum is being picked up using social media. We're also looking at utilising volunteers. At the moment, we've inducted 4 additional volunteers who are helping us beavering away on our archive work. and also we're exploring potential new volunteer roles to help us staff the service when we can open fully, and particularly that's on Saturdays. Finally, I do have a proposal that Charlotte is looking at. Normally we have acquisitions, and in this case what we've got is a proposed disposal, but hopefully members will have checked the recommendation and understand the rationale for what we plan to do. This particular pump came to us via a museum in Swindon, and it is of historic value as it's part of the history of the area, being Duke and Ockendon's as was. The pump is a fantastic thing, but it's not something that we have the facilities really to store or even to display appropriately. And because it has been accessioned into the collection, that we need to invoke our museum disposal procedure, which requires us to come to yourselves in the first instance and ask for your approval. But I also wanted to reassure members that we are looking to deal with it in what we consider to be a very appropriate way, and that is to try and get it housed locally, but in an environment that shows it off and, to put it bluntly, is where it belongs. So I would like to ask the committee if they would approve the decision to proceed with that disposal on the basis that's outlined in the report. And happy to answer any questions, Chair.
Okay, thank you ever so much, Jules. So we have the three recommendations before us. I would say with the Duke and Ockendon's pump, I think this is actually highlights some of the reason for doing the documentation work. For those who don't know, the museum, if you go into the archives, there is a lot of stuff there, and this is part of the rationale for doing it, is to make sure that we've got what can be displayed, and we know that going forward there will be potentially other suggestions of things to dispose of, and it's to make sure that they're in the right place for the public as well, and that it's the right items for our museum. So completely understand that, but we do have a question from Councillor Turner, so I'll go over to Councillor Turner.
Thank you, Chair. I'm just wondering about Amberley Museum. That would seem a very appropriate place for that to go to. Whether we, whether they, do we donate it or do we sell it to them, or I'm not very sure, but I would have thought that Amberley Museum would be a perfect place for it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Turner, and I'm pleased to say I believe that is one of the ones that is being looked into as an option. I personally believe it will be more of a donation.
Yes.
But there will be cost implications with moving it. It's a very large item. But wouldn't it be great to actually know that it's there where the public can enjoy it again, and they are more geared up for looking after an item of this particular type, which I think would be great. So hopefully they may be interested. If Absolutely. Not, there might be Wealdon Downland Open Air Museum as well as an option.
Yeah. Absolutely, we love both of those places and we go a lot, so it would be nice to be able to go and see it in situ. Thank you.
Definitely. I love Wealdon Downland and Amberley. I haven't been to Amberley for a while now. Anyway, so we've got the recommendations before us. Are we happy to take those on block?
Yes.
No one.
Agreed.
Wonderful. So we all agreed on those?
Agreed.
Wonderful. Agreed. In which case we move on to item 8.1, pages 57 through to 60, which is finance.
Thank you, Chair. Last but by no means least, It's all about the money, and this is the budget monitor, and it'll be the last one prior to the close of the financial year. So that's the usual report. I'm happy to take any questions. There are no recommended actions. We're just asking the committee to note the report, Chair.
Okay. Does anyone have any questions? I'll give you a moment to pop that in. No? Okay, is everyone content to just note the report then, please?
Yes.
Great. Yeah. Lovely, thank you ever so much. Item 9, exempt business, there is none. So it just leaves me to thank all the staff for their support throughout the meeting, and to members of the public for their patience, and also to the officers not involved in the meeting for pulling all this together, and for all the work that is done behind the scenes that the public don't get to see, and obviously to all of our councillors as well. So many thanks. I hope you all have a great weekend, and I'll see you all soon. Take care. And the meeting closes at 8:15. Thank you all.
Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you.
Yeah.